Let's reply to some comments. Okay, sure. Hey Ricky, what's going on?
Deadpool.
Fine. I'll do a Deadpool video. Welcome to Comic Misconceptions. I'm Scott, and I'm finally going to fulfill my promise from 1 year ago when I said this. First things first, to everyone asking for a Deadpool video. We're working on it. Really just trying to make past Scott more accountable these days. Plus, you all have been vaguely asking me for a Deadpool video since the dawn of time, so why not now? One aspect of Deadpool that has popped up a lot and has been treated as fact is that he is a blatant ripoff of the DC character Deathstroke, but what if he wasn't? Alright, let's back up here. First, a little background on these two characters, and as I always do, I will overgeneralize their respective histories and link YouTube videos in the description where you can find more info on them if you so choose. Deathstroke, originally Deathstroke the Terminator, was created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez and premiered in New Teen Titans #2 from 1980. He can be summed up pretty fairly as a genetically enhanced super soldier turned assassin/mercenary named Slade Wilson, who fights using a combo of blades and guns. Deadpool, on the other hand, was created by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza and premiered in New Mutants #98 from 1991. He can be summed up pretty fairly as a genetically enhanced assassin/mercenary named Wade Wilson who fights using a combo of blades and guns. Hey, it's like the same thing. It's clear that these two share more than a few similarities, right? One of the big differences being their personalities, of course. Deathstroke is more serious, whereas Deadpool is pretty the opposite of that. So now we get to the main question again. Was Deadpool really, truly a ripoff of Deathstroke? Well, let's look at the evidence for that argument. First and foremost, I think we can all agree that the similarities are way too crazy to be a coincidence, right? Unfortunately, that's not really evidence. It's improbable, sure, but not impossible, strictly speaking, for Rob Liefeld to come up with a Deadpool character completely separate from Deathstroke. What evidence do we actually have? The biggest source I have found is this interview with Fabian Nicieza, the other co-creator of Deadpool, in Classic Marvel Figurine Collection number 56 from 2008. In the last section of the magazine, Nicieza reveals the behind the scenes of the creation of Deadpool. He explains, and I quote, "All I knew at the time was that he was a lethal killer and super agile, sort of a cross between Spider-Man and Punisher. So I called Rob up and I said, 'This guy is Deathstroke from Teen Titans.' And he laughed and said, 'Ah, you caught me.' And we both laughed since we both love Teen Titans, and we had already discussed that Deadpool was going to be the throwaway character out of the three that were being introduced that issue." He goes on to say a bit later in the interview, quote, "I named him Wade Wilson because that was our little in-joke that made him a third cousin on his mother's sister's uncle's cousin's side to Slade Wilson, Deathstroke." That seems pretty straightforward and has certainly been quoted and cited enough around the internet that it caught on as the official story. I mean, it comes straight from the mouth of one of the co-creators of Deadpool. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly. At many different Comic-Cons, Rob Liefeld has held panels where fans basically just ask him a lot of Deadpool questions. A lot of the answers are pretty eye-opening. Getting straight to the point, whenever fans ask if Deathstroke was an inspiration for Deadpool, Rob always seems to reply very clearly saying absolutely not. Links for 3 videos of different panels this happened in, and an article written up about one of them in the description if you want to go take a look for yourself. Combining information from all the different panels together, Liefeld explains that the creation of Deadpool was really inspired by Todd McFarlane. McFarlane was drawing Spider-Man at the time, who we all know is a masked character. Liefeld was drawing New Mutants, with a bunch of characters who didn't wear masks. Liefeld tells the story of how McFarlane used to taunt him about how he'd have to spend a lot of time getting the faces and the hair and the eyebrows lined up and all that stuff, while Spider-Man was just a big oval, some big eyes, and it allowed McFarlane to work a lot faster. So when the opportunity arrived, Liefeld created his answer to McFarlane's Spider-Man, not just a character who was masked, but a character who was almost always masked. With Spider-Man, you'd still have to draw Peter Parker's face occasionally, but with Deadpool, he's almost perpetually in his costume and mask. Liefeld pitched Deadpool as bad Spider-Man with swords and guns, and he based the name off of the Clint Eastwood movie the Deadpool from 1988.
The Deadpool is just a harmless game. Sounds pretty sick to me.
He goes on to explain that Wolverine was also a big inspiration. When a fan asked why he made Deadpool's main power healing, Liefeld replied, quote, "Because I was literally copying Wolverine." He elaborates on the connection to Wolverine by talking about Deadpool's proposed backstory as a Weapon X washout that other writers expanded upon later. So with Rob Liefeld's story, we have a problem, an inconsistency. One co-creator said Deadpool was based off of Deathstroke intentionally, while the other plainly says that he wasn't. So what's the answer? Perhaps the easiest explanation here is that someone is just misremembering, right? Radiolab did a fascinating episode about memories that I'll link to below. In it, they talk about how every time you remember something, you're literally changing and altering that memory. This means that the more you reflect on old memories, the less accurate they actually become. I love how Stan Lee puts it whenever he starts telling stories from his past experiences.
I have said this so often at so many places that for all I know, it might even be true.
Kind of a little self-deception. You tell a lie so much that it actually starts to become true for you. That's not to say that either person set out to purposefully spread a lie, but rather that both could wholeheartedly believe what they are saying is the truth, even though they contradict each other. But do they? I mean, are these two stories from Liefeld and Nicieza truly mutually exclusive? Giving each side the benefit of the doubt, we could piece together a combined story that might make sense. Nicieza talks about how both he and Liefeld were big fans of Teen Titans at the time, so maybe when McFarlane was teasing him about Spider-Man, Liefeld started crafting Deadpool and subconsciously was drawing inspiration from Deathstroke. When Nicieza heard about and saw Deadpool for the first time, it was obvious to him that he seemed a lot like Deathstroke, and so he probably would have brought it up to Liefeld, who then could have immediately recognized that, oh yeah, I guess he is. You caught me. What do you guys think? Is Deadpool an intentional ripoff of Deathstroke? Was it accidental and subconscious? Or was it completely and totally an unrelated coincidence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if this is your first time hanging out with us here at NerdSync, we do weekly comic book videos that expand your understanding and enrich your comic book reading experience. So hit that big sexy subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Once again, I'm Scott. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. We'll see you right here on Friday for a tie-in video and more things that you thought you knew about comics. See ya.
Hello? Gosh, it is hard to find a good Deadpool nowadays.